Hello and welcome to this week's Ed Block Couragecast. Oh, it is great to be back. We had a nice little week off. Brett Dickinson filled in admirably for us here on the program, but we are back and we're really excited for this week's show. I'm your host, Dave Steinwedel. Wally Williams is at a banquet this week. Dwayne Brooks is at his job as the athletic trainer for a high school down in Florida. So it's just me and my guy, former NFL defensive lineman with the Vikings, Bengals, and Chiefs right now, Duane Clemons. Great to see you, buddy. How you doing?
All right, Dave. Always glad to be in the room with you, even if it's just the two of us.
That's right. Well, we got a lot to get into and a very special guest coming on later in the podcast that we're really excited about. It's a little different.
Yeah, some Hollywood action.
That's right. We're going to Hollywood this week. The talk of the town in the sports world right now is the FX show on Aaron Hernandez and his story. And joining us will be the guy that actually plays Rob Gronkowski in FX's show. I'm looking to get the proper title right now as we speak. But that would be actor Laith Wallschleger, is going to join us a little later to talk about being a part of the show. It's American sports story, Aaron Hernandez. He's a longtime friend of Rob Gronkowski. He's got a new movie coming out here as well coming up in a couple months. So we'll get the chance to kind of dive into some Hollywood stuff there, DC. I'm kind of excited for this one.
Me too. I mean, I know we've been touching all the world. We've touched all these NFL stars, but it's nice to see that our reach is actually getting even further. We're getting into entertainment. Maybe we'll get some music moguls on here. Who knows?
Oh yeah, it is an interesting time for us and for this podcast, but really it's an interesting time for the NFL. And let's dive into some of the big stuff that happened this week because there was a lot that happened in the NFL.
Yes, man. The trades. Where are we starting at?
Let's start with the big one, which had been kind of brewing for months now. Davante Adams getting traded to the New York Jets in what felt like a move of inevitability, I would say, between the two organizations. But your take, DC, on how everything has played out, and now Davante Adams on the Jets.
Well, shouts out to my twin cousin Jason. He's the Raider fan, diehard. I've been telling him that this is a rebuild year, that they don't have a chance. But I feel like the Raiders have finally woken up and realized, like, hey, we don't have the right head coach necessarily, or he's a new head coach, so he still has a lot of growth to go there. You don't have the right quarterback. You don't have the right pieces on offense to complement a quarterback or to protect the quarterback. This is what I thought they should have been doing all along, trying to trade off some big pieces, get more draft picks, try to rebuild from the ground up. But it sounds like the rubbers finally met the road. Davante had to give up on them before they finally went down this road. But it was time and it was necessary. They're at least 2 years away from being a solid team and having a foundation.
I just wonder with the Davante Adams if that whole situation didn't start to go sour so quickly because of the Derek Carr getting traded. I mean, that's your guy.
Absolutely.
And so it sort of felt like we were always headed to this resolution, and it always felt like the inevitability was he was going to be a New York Jet by the time this season ended, just because he's going to go to familiarity. That's why he left Green Bay after Aaron Rodgers left. He went to the Raiders to be with Derek Carr. Now he's going to Aaron Rodgers again because it's familiarity for him. Here's the question I have that I want to pose to you, though, DC. Is Davante Adams enough to put the Jets over the top?
That I feel like I don't know. Him and Rodgers, they do when they're clicking, they are very special. And we already know Davante has always been a high level producing receiver, but Rodgers is a little long in the tooth. I mean, I don't feel like the issue is on Davante's side. I feel like I don't know if Rodgers still has it. It was like he's been trying to find his way back to that rare form that he used to have, and we've seen some flashes. But, this is a long season, and this ain't no country for old men, kind of like that movie. So I just don't know if Rodgers is just a little too long in the tooth to be the competitor there that he wants to be. So we'll get a chance to see if this move was enough. But I don't think it's on Davante. I think it'll be like if Rodgers can really put the ball where he needs to. Can he stand up in the pocket? Can he take hits? Can he last and actually be durable as well as profoundly good like he used to be?
Well, and I think you touch on the big thing, which is Aaron Rodgers has not looked like the Aaron Rodgers that I think we all expected him to look like. And the reality is he's almost 40 years old. He's 40 years old, coming off an Achilles injury, and that takes a toll on the body. I think, though, that if you're the Jets, you've sold your soul to one guy, and we know who that guy is. I mean, Robert Saleh lost his job, and you can say whatever you want to say as an organization, and you can say whatever you want to say as Aaron Rodgers, and we have to believe it because we are not in that room. But I just you can't convince me that there wasn't a part of this that Aaron Rodgers thought, hey, okay, this isn't working with Robert Saleh. Let's make a move. Hey, this isn't working with the guys we have at receiver. Let's go make a move. And the Jets didn't say, okay, we will do that. And I think that's the reality of the situation. When you look at where the Jets are, you've sold your soul to one guy. Because there's another organization in football that we're going to have that conversation about, and that's the Cleveland Browns. You sell your soul to one guy, and I mean, if it works, it works. And right now, I think you're seeing two organizations where it's not kind of working. So now you're desperate, and I don't think Davante Adams is the reason that the Jets will play any better. I think if they play better and they win game, it's because Aaron Rodgers gets back to old Aaron Rodgers.
Absolutely. And would he be Rodgers without Davante? Because if he was Rodgers, I don't know if they would be thinking about this trade. Because
Without a
I
doubt.
feel like they put themselves in a tough position. Because if they don't win it all this year, I mean, they're done for the next few years. I mean, with the numbers that they're throwing around and all the older players that they brought in, trying to have this 1-year wonder hit. Uh, you know, uh, I almost pray that it does work out for them because it feels like they're going to be in a disaster, kind of like Cleveland and Denver, where they're in this big hole that you spent too much money on a quarterback, you didn't get any value for it, and now you can never get any return on that investment that they made.
Yeah, he's such a driving force. I think that the Jets also paid for. If you were going to make a move with Robert Saleh, you should have done it at the end of the season last year. And it would have been, I think we'd all sat there and said, okay, that makes sense. That works. It didn't work out, yada, yada. You can say, well, the Rodgers injury, whatever. You paid a price because you tried to keep on a coach and it didn't work. I think that's another part of it as well. Because I think that there's another handful of teams in the NFL that we can sit there and go through and say probably could have gotten rid of their coach in the offseason and didn't do it, and it hasn't exactly changed. Nothing's changed from last year to this year with the team.
And is that Robert Saleh's fault or is that the GM too? Because I mean, I haven't really heard his name on the hot seat, and he's to me just as complicit.
Well, and you know what? That to me is also a fair point that needs to be brought up. Is Robert Saleh took a lot of heat for how that Jet team played, but where's the criticism for Joe Douglas, the GM, who built a roster that is just sort of. I don't know if there's a true identity with the Jets. Whereas, like, you look with Kansas City and you look with, like, Baltimore and some of the other teams in the AFC, you know what their identity is. You know what they're trying to do. Kansas City is going to try to beat you with speed and power running and big, strong offensive linemen. And then you look at the other side and you say, well, what really are the Jets trying to do? They have two really good running backs in Breece Hall, former Ed Block recipient, and Braylon Allen. But then they got a lot of veteran receivers, but they don't have a great offensive line. So you're sort of sitting there and you're like, what are they trying to accomplish? And as a former player, what is it like when you have a team that doesn't feel like you sort of know what their identity is?
I think I think you feel lost when you're in a situation like that, and especially when you don't have an organization that's like great from the top down. Like, when you mention the Chiefs, they have the owner, the president, the GM, the head coach, and the quarterback. All of them are operating at an elite level. Whereas when you got an organization where you just feel like they're just trying to win it with a checkbook, they're not really intentional about developing a program and building through the draft and going out there and taking all the steps that it takes to build a sustainable program for like the Chiefs have done over the last decade where, they've never went out and spent the big money on the free agents. And, they've kept a handful of guys inside, but they've also let some guys go. They've made the tough choices and the tough decisions so that they can always be in the hunt. Whereas I think some teams are just trying to write it, use their checkbook and, try to be like the New York Yankees back in the day, thinking, hey, I can just buy up a bunch of talent, throw it all together, and it's going to turn into, a great situation. It just doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. And I think that's kind of where the Jets are at right now, is they're kind of lost in this no man's land and just feel like it doesn't really matter the moves they're going to make, because until they kind of figure out who they are and what they want to do, they're going to be stuck in that sort of gray area. Let's go to the other one, which was an interesting one. The Browns trading Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills. You may disagree with me on this one, but I think this is a move that solidifies to me that Buffalo's the third best team in the AFC. I mean, it's Kansas City, it's Baltimore. Then it was sort of a question mark because you looked at the Bills and you said, love the way Josh Allen's playing. They're running the ball a little bit better. The defense is about on par with last year, but they're missing that guy. And Amari Cooper, I'm not saying he's going to come in and be Stephon Diggs or whatever, but it changes how you game plan against them now that you have Amari Cooper on the outside. That's a guy that now is a defense you have to focus on. And they didn't have that guy before. No knock on Keon Coleman, who's trying to get developed at the NFL. Shakir is a good receiver, but he's kind of a slot guy. He's not really a guy you put out there as a true number one. And now you have that guy. That's going to open a lot of stuff up, I think, for Josh Allen in that passing game, to where I think it makes Buffalo easily the third best team in the AFC.
I mean, I almost hate how the AFC just keeps getting scarier and scarier and scarier. It's like, why do all the good players keep migrating to our conference? And I guess I do know why, because the Crown has been in this conference for so long, and everybody's trying to knock it off the head of Patrick Mahomes. But when I think about him having a top-notch receiver, they already had a defense, and then I think the Jets going out there, it's like, man, we are really setting ourselves up to have a bloodbath the second half of the season. If those teams can really get going, playing with continuity, then it's just kind of scary to think what the AFC is going to be those last 4 or 5 weeks of the season. If Baltimore's playing good, KC's playing good, Buffalo's playing good, and the Jets are playing good, I just don't know how this thing shakes out because there's just so much talent.
There is. It is an incredible amount of talent and good teams in the AFC. I mean, you have Houston who's sitting there, who easily you could have that conversation, could be the third best team as well. I think it's kind of a flip of the coin right now. But
since he could turn a corner.
I mean, Cincinnati's that team that you look at and you say, even though they're at 2-4, I'm sorry, you're like, I can't really write them off. Pittsburgh is there, which we'll talk about them in a little bit because they're in the news for their quarterback decisions. But if you look at Buffalo, to me, this was a move that addressed, which was the big question they were going to have the rest of the season. Where Kansas City's questions was, could they stay healthy? Can they stay healthy and get enough production out of the receiver position without Rashid Rice and without Marquise Brown for the rest of the year? The Ravens' question was going to be, can the defense kind of get a little bit back to how good they played last year, and can the offense stick to what their identity is, which is Derrick Henry running the football? Buffalo's question was, where are they going to get production at the receiver position? And the answer was, I don't think you were going to get enough production out of the guys you had to beat Baltimore, and beat Kansas City. So you go out and you get Amari Cooper, and that now answers that question for them.
They are for real. Now, the one thing I do respect is that everybody is really trying to punch up. Like, there is nobody that's punching down. Everybody's trying to punch up, and they are dead serious about trying to get it done this year. So it's going to be crazy, the aftermath of after the season. Like, what kind of shape are these teams going to be in when all these bills come due and they have to try to, restructure all these contracts and keep all these guys available for at least another run? Or if one of these teams does manage to knock Kansas City off, is it going to be even sustainable?
Let's quickly talk about the other team in this trade, because they are the interesting conversation, which is the Cleveland Browns. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago, how the play of Deshaun Watson, and it hasn't gotten any better. And now it feels like the dysfunction is at an all-time high. When you look at the Browns, now after trading Amari Cooper, just what do you make of this situation in Cleveland?
They need to pull a Denver. I mean, they got to flush it at some point. It's been stinking and it's been swirling and it's just sitting there floating, clogging everything up. At some point, you just got to go ahead and plunge it, snake it, do whatever you got to do. But they got to move on. I mean, there is no sign that he's going to get better. I don't think there's any miraculous miracle that his shoulder's going to get better. And then you compound that with all the off the field drama and the lack of ability to be a leader in the building because he's dealing with, stuff from 4 or 5 years ago on top of the injuries. I just think they're going to have to just bite the bullet and just accept that they're in the same position as like the Raiders and Denver, that they got basically 2 years that they have to completely rebuild everything from the ground up, and just accept the fact that, hopefully they can get lucky. Maybe they can draft a guy that can come in and set a spark, but they've already, pretty much lost the next 2 seasons at the quarterback position, that if they don't somehow draft a stud, in the late round, that they can just basically turn into a real NFL killer.
Not to mention just like the dead money that they're going to take. They're going to get just killed with the dead cap. But I mean, the reality is here, my issue, and I feel really bad for Kevin Stefanski, because I don't think that there's ever a question about this guy coaching at the NFL level. He has proven with this Browns team that he can do the job. He took Baker Mayfield to the playoffs. He turned the season around when Joe Flacco had to take over last year. No question about Kevin Stefanski in my eyes. But he's hamstrung because I feel like there's someone in the ownership, in the front office, that's trying to prove that this contract wasn't as ridiculous as we all thought it was going to be. There's a reason, and DC, I know it's painful for you as an ex-player. There's a reason why there are not fully guaranteed contracts in the NFL.
Yes.
And
it doesn't work out.
Well, I mean, this is the example why this is not a thing.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't work, you are in a lot of trouble. Because there's no easy way out. You're going to owe a lot of money at the end of the season. And this is where Cleveland is at. Because you're right, Deshaun Watson has not come back from the shoulder problems. Now you have more off-the-field problems. His decision-making in games is not great. He hasn't exactly come back and been the leader that anybody in that organization thought he would be. So you're kind of this rudderless ship, but if you're Kevin Stefanski, there's no out for you. And that's the part that bothers me a little bit for him, is he has to now go up there every week and defend the fact that he's going to be the starting quarterback. Every week he's got to say Deshaun Watson is the starting quarterback, because I don't think he has the option to go to the other guys.
Now, in this whole decision-making process before this contract went out, was him and the GM in lockstep, or was this kind of like a top-down decision that the coach just signed off on?
That is a good question. My sense would be that he probably had a hand in the decision, but probably not all the way in like the GM and the owner, Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry, the GM, were about getting Deshaun Watson. And I think the reality is it goes back to our conversation we always have about quarterbacks, is if you don't have one, you panic. And
Yeah.
you start to you get I don't want to you get desperate if you feel like you don't have one. And the Browns got caught in a position where they got desperate. They didn't have a quarterback. They wanted one. They needed one. Deshaun Watson was available. They were willing to get risky and bold because they didn't have one. And this is the spot where, like, the Raiders are going to be in this offseason because you haven't had a quarterback for 2 years since you let Derek Carr go. And now, hey, you don't have a quarterback, and that's part of the reason why you're not winning football games.
So is the moral of the story, you have to learn how to draft quarterbacks as an organization. There is no getting around the fact you're not going to buy a quarterback. You're not going to, turn somebody else's project into your winner. But we've seen this time and time again that, teams that can draft quarterbacks like Baltimore, like Cincinnati has, like Kansas City's done, like Buffalo's done. This is the formula. This trying to go out and buy people like the Raiders did with Garoppolo and, trying to just bring guys in and, sign people is just not the way to do it. You got to get a guy in the draft. You got to hopefully get those 2 or 3 good cheap years out that you can put talent around him. You can afford some tackles and receivers. Otherwise, this seems like this is going to keep happening, and until teams start kind of embracing this new reality that there's just too much money tied up in the quarterback to go out and get a free agent and try to make that work for any long term, maybe for a season or two. But we're going to have to get back to old school. You got to develop whoever's making those decisions at quarterback in the draft room has got to be better. Otherwise, he's got to get fired.
Yeah, no, you are 1000% correct. I think that is, if you can't draft and develop, you're going to be a franchise that you're going to do this every couple years. And I think the thing that will haunt Cleveland is looking down at Tampa and seeing Baker Mayfield having success. Because that goes exactly to what you're saying. You had a guy on your roster that you were ready to develop to be the guy, and you kind of gave up on him probably sooner than you should have, and now he's going and having success in another organization. Really quickly, before we take a break here, because we have our guests coming up here in the next couple minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh. Rumblings that they might be changing the quarterback after a decent start by this Justin Fields at 4-2 to now Russell Wilson. What's your take on that?
Well, I definitely do not question Tomlin. Tomlin is the man that, if he says water is wet, I'm going to believe it every time. But, it's hard to argue with success, and the fact that they're 4-2, nobody thought they'd be even competitive in their division, much less leading their division and going into the middle of the season, a couple of games ahead of their division rivals. None of us would have believed that this was going to be the case. So part of me feels like, hey, Justin Fields has to really go out there and lose the battle. But on the other side, I'm not at practice. Maybe Russell Wilson is going out there, lighting it up, throwing, haymakers all over the field, and we just haven't been able to see that. But based on the last time I saw Russell Wilson on the field, I don't see how or why you would make that decision to shake things up when things are going in a pretty good direction. And, obviously he has more upside. He's a younger player. He has a potential, hopefully, to stick with your franchise for a few years. And he's still going to be, at a pretty good discount, whereas Russell's number is going to be ridiculous next year. So if I'm looking short term and at the long term future, I just don't see a lot of reasons why to move off of Justin Fields until he starts doing something that's dramatically, harming me.
I just wonder, now there is a part of this that I think goes back to the Fields trade a little bit, that there's a conditional draft pick on playing time.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see this being an organizational decision to say, hey, let's maybe not give up a second round. We're willing to part with a X round pick for this, but let's not bump it up to that. But the only other thing I can think of is the Steelers' offensive line's got some injuries here. And I wonder if they're just thinking right now, if Russell Wilson throwing with this cast of crew, because they're going to have to be more of a passing team against better defenses.
Mm-hmm.
If they can't run and have success running the football with the play action pass off of it to help Justin Fields out, if they don't think right now with the cast around Justin Fields he can win with that, that maybe that's why you're going with Russell Wilson. Because even if you get 80% of Russ from his Seattle days, he may be able to be enough to carry a subpar receiver room in Pittsburgh. And that can be the only thing that I can think of. And maybe we're all wrong and Justin Fields run it out there Sunday as the starter. But that's the only thing I can think of that I can look at and say that might be why the decision is being made, other than that, hey, we're going to try to lower the draft pick by manipulating how much he plays.
Now, I hate to be that guy, David, but I guess there's a lot of money invested in Pittsburgh, and I know Russell Wilson's part of a big investment group that's doing some big things. Do you feel like nepotism might be rearing its ugly head, and there might be some outside influences, like saying, like, hey, Russell's our guy, you need to get him back on the field and put him in a position because it's good for our business off the field as well?
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt, there's a lot of that. There's whether it's the nepotism of the businesses, whether it's the controlling the draft pick, there's some of that. We do have to step aside though, DC, because we have a really great interview coming up right after this. All right, welcome back to, as we talked about a little earlier, Dave Steinwedel, Duane Clemons, Wally Williams, unfortunately, could not be here. Same with DB, and they're both very disappointed to be missing this because, as we talked about, we're a nonprofit that works with the NFL. We've interviewed some really cool NFL people, but DC, I think it's fair to say, this one's probably the one we're most excited about right now.
Absolutely. We don't get Hollywood coming to the show very often, so you're officially our first Hollywood guest.
That's right. That's right. Joining us now, he is an actor. He is in the FX series American Sports Story, Aaron Hernandez, ironically playing Rob Gronkowski. He's also got a new movie coming out here in a couple of weeks leading up to the holiday season on Lifetime, Christmas in the Spotlight, which is based on Taylor Swift's relationship with Travis Kelce, loosely, of course. He's not actually playing Travis Kelce, but that would be actor Laith Wallschleger joining us. Laith, it is great to see you. Thank you for coming on. Just what has these last couple of weeks and months been? Because it feels like all of a sudden you are everywhere. Everybody's talking about you. What has this been like for you?
Oh, wow. It's been, honestly, it's been a complete whirlwind. Literally, it's like everyone from all the chapters in my life are coming out of the woodwork and going, dude, like I'm seeing you everywhere. So just like getting inundated, the press, all this media, it's wild, man. It's wild. It's hard to explain. You know,
I remember being drafted in the NFL and just feeling like I was so not ready. Like, more as a human being, like, I wasn't ready to be around all these millionaires, billionaires, playing with all these Hall of Famers. Does it feel like that when you're in Hollywood and you get your first big break and all of a sudden now you got to figure out how to be the guy at this next level?
No, I keep being myself, like I tell you what, my varsity basketball coach told me this when we were getting beat by 30 points. But,
wow.
He always said, never make the moment bigger than you. If you live by the praise of people, you're going to die by their criticism. So, I'm great. I'm grateful to make like people happy, but I don't know. Why would I change from being me? That's what got me here in the first place. Right.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, honestly, I've had quite a long, well, I wouldn't say a long Hollywood career, but I've been doing it full time since 2018. So I've had the privilege of working with A-list actors and celebrities and stuff like that. So it's not anything new to me, but it's certainly, it's always great to be recognized,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's wild, man.
Let's begin. Part of what makes you so interesting is you were a football player at one point. You played at the University of Delaware, had a little bit of a tryout in the NFL. So tell me about that transition going from being a player to, hey, now I might do some acting here.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a story, but basically, if I had to give you the full scoop, I was a really good player at the University of Delaware. I broke some records there. Unfortunately, in my junior season, 5 games in, I tore my ACL, and then ACL and meniscus, and then I retore my meniscus in rehab. So I only got to play like the last half of my senior year. You know what I mean? And coming from a D1 AA school, it's already an uphill battle. So I didn't have the year that I wanted. Went into training camp with the Cardinals. My defensive coordinator was there. Just came down to a numbers thing. I did really well, but I mean, you know how it goes in the NFL. So I tried my luck in arena football. I played for the Jacksonville Sharks, and I don't know if you guys know anything about arena football, but how do I put
Bush
this?
League.
It will test your love for the game. And I found out that I don't know if I love this so much anymore. So
How Bush League is arena football?
I will put it to you like this. We practiced at a middle school field. I got my ankles taped out the back of a U-Haul truck. We we had team meetings in an apartment complex, and all of the fathers on the team would bring their children, and we'd have a little daddy daycare in one of the apartment rooms during our meetings where we watched film.
Oh gosh.
I remember the first time I got in an arena football league stadium was on game day because the owner of the arena, they have concerts and stuff in there, so we can't get in there to practice except on game day. So it was wild. And then like the turf in arena football league is razor sharp carpet. So I've known guys who have had their tattoos scratched off, and then they have like they love to put these ads on the field that are super slick, and you're just like begging for an injury. So it's a wild ride, man. It's different stuff, But
Oh man.
but yeah, so a few of my teammates they told me about working in football TV shows and movies in the off season. So that's how I got connected in the entertainment industry. I started working for this company called Game Changing Films, and they're like family to me, man. Mike Sheldon and his wife Jesse and Justin Skinner and all those guys. They do all of the sports movies you could possibly imagine, like Any Given Sunday, The Replacements, Invincible, that movie with Will Smith where he plays the Williams sisters' fathers, right? So I got connected with them, started doing the stunts on those movies, and then it just kind of gradually came from there. But they gave me my first start. And, you fast forward to today, I've been on shows like All American and the Aaron Hernandez show. Basically, they got me in the door because it's difficult to find actors who can play the part and both look the part. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah.
they've definitely opened the door for me and also for a lot of other stunt guys who've worked with them in the past. So I owe it to them big time.
Being a real football player and then going to Hollywood, did you feel like almost abnormally large when you're around like the regular actors?
Absolutely.
'Cause I feel I got to go on a couple of sets and I was like, gosh, I feel like I am like Andre the Giant walking around this place.
Yeah, they're definitely much shorter than me, but that's why they have those little Apple boxes. They give you a little boost up if you need it,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How does it work off the field? I mean, I'm sorry, off camera. Like, I
Sure.
remember one of the biggest mistakes I made in my career. I had probably the best agent in the world, Lee Steinberg. For some reason, my first ex-wife, could not stand him, and I ended up firing him. And it really just kind of put my career in a tizzy because once you start messing with the wrong people in the business side of football, it kind of follows you, and it kind of blocked me for some opportunities. How does that work in Hollywood? Like you sound like you have a great relationship with is it your agent or your producers?
My manager is fantastic. We have a very special relationship. I met him at an event. My buddy Armand Barati, he runs these Hollywood networking events, and I met him at this mixer, and nothing came of it. I texted him once, he never got back to me, but then he ended up calling me months later, March of 2023, and he was just like, I don't know what made me call you, but your name stuck out to me. Do you have any representation? I'd love to work with you, man. And I don't know, I'm a big believer in Jesus, man. And I believe that he makes a way and he brings people in my life that I can align with. And me and him, we have been through some crazy times. I've had his back and he's had mine, and he actually cares about me and believes in me. So we're kind of like a family. It's more than just a business transaction, if you will. So it's important to have people in your corner who will fight for you and who actually, care about your personal life and want you to excel as a person, and also, in your profession as well. So I love to, you got to know who you roll with, man. And I just love to have good people in my corner. And I think God has done a great job of steering those people in my direction,
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the Aaron Hernandez show a little bit,
Yeah.
because let's start with this. How did that process go that led you to land the role of playing Rob Gronkowski, other than that Rob Gronkowski?
Yeah. So, I mean, for me personally, I've always gotten Tim Tebow. Like, man, you look a lot like Tim Tebow, you know what I mean? But
Oh yeah, I can see that.
yeah, right. But Patrick Schwarzenegger got that role. So, game-changing films, like I was saying, they said to production, "Hey, we got a guy that we think could play Gronk," because they know he's been a family friend of mine. We're always hanging out, doing videos, and messing around and stuff. And basically, it was one of the easiest auditions I had. There were no lines or anything like that. They just said, act like Rob Gronkowski congratulating a teammate on winning an award or something like that. So I just acted like all the times where we partied together,
Oh yeah.
got hyped and stuff. And literally that was it. And basically, gosh, what came of that is I got on set, and there's kind of the first scene I did on set was the photo shoot where me and Aaron were the rookies. We're having our first like pictures as the tight ends, we're doing our thing. And sometimes I have a problem with the script. I don't stick to the script, and I will just go and do stuff. And I guess the showrunner and some of the producers were like, "Wow, that's Rob," because a lot of the times with some of these athletes, they look the part, but they can't act the part. It's just how it goes sometimes. So it was a pleasant surprise. And basically, they ended up writing in some extra lines of dialogue for me and getting me in some other scenes to, I guess, bring a little bit more levity to the show, because it's kind of a very deep, dark show. You know what I mean? And it gets a little heavy at times. You got to bring some comedic elements in there. So,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Did you get to do a lot of research with some of the other guys from the team in that area, like Brady or Amendola or some of those guys?
What do you mean by research?
Like, I guess, did you get to hang out with some of those other guys, I guess, in the process of making the movie? I don't know if they actually reach out to those guys and have them give like inputs and tell stories and let you guys kind of get a feel for what it was like being in the locker room.
You know what? No, they didn't have any of those guys involved, honestly. And I did the movie 80 for Brady. I don't know if you guys are familiar with
Yeah,
that.
I remember that.
I played like one of the Patriots offensive coordinators in that one. And they were on set for that because I think that was produced by Tom. But this one, yeah, they didn't really involve any of the Patriots players or really any of the Florida players. But a big treat when we did some of the football action, I got to meet Chris Rainey, who
Okay.
used to play on the Gators. He did some of the stunts in the show, so it was really awesome getting to talk with him and getting to hang with him on the sideline. So it was cool.
So let's talk about your friendship with Rob Gronkowski. Rob is an Ed Block Courage Award recipient. Back in 2014, he was a recipient, the Patriots recipient that year.
Nice.
What are some of your favorite Gronk memories from your guys' time?
Wow. Gosh. You know, we we so basically how I know Rob is my cousin Mojo, who's a WWE wrestler. He played college football with Rob's brother Dan at the University of Maryland. Uh, Chris Gronk came to the University of Maryland. He didn't like it, so he transferred to Arizona. Rob went to Arizona. And then it was actually Papa Gronk that got my cousin his start in the WWE. And so they've been family friends with us for a while. And basically, I don't know if you guys remember this during his career, but uh Gronk was sometimes like Dennis Rodman, where he would ball out on the field and then he's got to go and get his yayas out, right?
Yeah.
And so we would always meet up for these friend kind of vacations in Las Vegas, and we would always have a good time, go to the Hard Rock pool parties, and we were athletes, so we always did it responsible, and we ended up getting a workout on the dance floor, you know what I mean? And just partying and having a good time. So like it was we we've had a lot of crazy times together. But I remember the first time I met him, I went up to Boston. I was in college. I want to say it was like 2012, 2013, and just seeing how basically the Boston community just worshiped those guys. It was unbelievable. I had never seen anything like that, especially like coming from a D1 AA school. So yeah, we go back, we go way back. But recently I've been able to work with him on some projects, and we've gotten close, and he's been a big fan of mine, supporting my success. It's kind of I mean, you know how it is. You just it's kind of like the little engine that could. You just keep rolling.
Oh yeah. Now, are you still going to be young enough when Rob finally does his tell-all book and his tell-all movie? Are you still going to be young enough to play him?
That's what CGI is for, my friend. They can age you and do all this stuff, but my beautiful wife, she does a great job with my skincare, so she keeps me looking young.
Awesome. So you're gonna be able to play the early Gronk, not the late Gronk.
Yeah, not Grandpa Gronk, right?
How did you tell Gronk that you were playing him? Or did you have a conversation with him and say, "Hey, Rob, I'm playing you in this show on FX"?
Yes, I did. So I was actually worried about that because, when I was kind of like doing my research and looking up old clips of him, I remember those interviews from way back in the day where he would not talk about it. And if you brought it up,
Right.
he like just shut you down. And so I obviously a lot of time had passed, but I was a little bit, cautious as to how he might still feel. So I remember talking to him. We were on set of Kick of Destiny 2, and I was just like, "Hey man, just wanted to let you know I'm actually gonna be playing you in a TV show, and just wanted to run it by you and make sure you were okay with that and what you thought." Even though I had already filmed the first scene.
Doesn't really matter what you think. It's gonna get done.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure it was okay. But he was like, yeah, he had no problem. He rooted me on from the beginning. So he's been a great proponent of me for a long time.
So how bad did you get to make fun of him? Do you have some really hilarious moments that we're gonna fall out our chair in?
From the show?
Yeah, from the Hernandez movie. Or the show.
Honestly, the scene that I did that went viral that everyone loves, that scene was originally written for Tom Brady to say that stuff to him. And
Uh,
and I think there was like some kind of story point where they didn't, I think him and Tom Brady had a conflict or something in the show, and so they wanted it to come from a more from a peer instead of a superior. So they ended up reshooting that scene, giving me Tom's lines, and that's what you got in the show. So I make a brief appearance. I have like a scene or two in episode 5, and then the episode 6, I just do some football stuff and no more dialogue. So it was real quick, real brief, but it was fun.
Well, it's taken off, and he made you a household name, Laith. So I do want to ask, because you're probably going to be a household name in a couple weeks when the Lifetime holiday film Christmas in the Spotlight comes out.
Yeah.
Tell us about that, and does it feel weird to you? I know it's not directly based off Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's relationship, but is there a part of you that you've portrayed Rob Gronkowski and now you're loosely portraying Travis Kelce to be doing this about guys that are still very much prominently in the spotlight?
Yeah, we're going for Greg Olson next, and then probably Jeremy Shockey. We're just gonna take care of all the time. I'm gonna be like
I thought you only played infamous tight ends.
No comment there. No comment.
There's still the Kellen Winslow story.
Oh,
that's right. I
don't know if you can play him.
I don't know if I can pull that one off.
I'm sorry, Dave. I had to.
It's all right.
We get him in a tanning. We get him tanned up pretty good. I mean, Kellen's pretty light skinned. What do you think? We send you down to St. Lucia for a couple months, bake you every day.
I don't know. These spray tans are getting pretty incredible, but I don't know if I can pull that one off.
Yeah, we don't want to get him canceled in 2024.
I can see him now with the weave French braid. They're gonna weave some French braids in and getting some tracks.
Well, that's how you go viral in a very bad way, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Who was the last one to pull that off? I think that was Robert Downey Jr. and then no one since.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So was that Soul Man?
Yeah.
Hey, I love Soul Man. I don't know what the problem was.
So take me inside the Lifetime movie and
so
how all that came to be.
I can't actually I got that role before obviously American Sports Story ever came out, but yeah, I can't say too much about it. I don't want to give away the plot, but it's basically just obviously kind of like Travis, big time sports NFL athlete, hasn't really found the right one, world famous superstar, hasn't met the right guy. All of a sudden they meet, and then sparks fly and they kind of go from there. But yeah, man, it's it's certainly a great movie to go see with mom, and honestly for everybody,
Sounds like your life, David.
Shots are being fired. You can tell we're getting towards the end of this podcast when this starts happening. Hey, if I'd have asked you, Laith, let's say 3 years ago, that you'd be sitting here in 2024, and your name, your popularity is growing, what would you have said had I told you this is what's going to happen for you back then?
I mean, shoot. I always say if your dreams don't scare you, you're probably not dreaming big enough. So,
Love that quote.
I've always I haven't really had that goal because I have no desire to be famous or anything like that. Not saying that I even am, but I've always just really enjoyed the process of my job and getting to do something different every day and just having the privilege and honor of working with so many talented people and just thrusting myself outside of my comfort zone to experience new things and new facets of life. So I just love the ride, man. And whatever comes from it, it's great, let it be what it is. So I don't know. I guess I probably wouldn't have imagined this at all, but it's nice. It's fun.
I can just tell by your energy, you're doing what you love. You found your purpose, and you're definitely in your zone. It just shines through, even through the phone on this Zoom call. So congratulations on finding your thing, man. Most people don't do it.
Amen. Yeah. I tell you what, a lot of and I struggle with this, after a lot of athletes do not decide for themselves when they hang up the cleats. You know what I mean? So I certainly found that after I was done playing, I kind of fell into a depression. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I encourage when you're in a football team, it's kind of like it's all about the team, and there's not much individuality. There's not much discovery of what you like and who you are, outside of sports. And I always had this innate talent as a voice actor to do impressions of people and things on the TV. So I've always had a desire to explore that. And from there, I discovered acting, and I don't know. I love being creative, and I love never knowing what I'm gonna do tomorrow, or what kind of challenge may lie ahead. So I love the unpredictability that this life is, and that can be both a good thing and a bad thing. So it's good to I've always made my money in the craft doing a bunch of different things. But I'm happy to be doing this thing right now. So it's been great, man.
All right. So you do some impressions. You do some impressions.
Mhm.
What is your best impression you can do?
So, gosh, when my cousin was a wrestler for the WWE, basically him and my best friend and I've known him since kindergarten. We've always been good at voices. Dean Mojo would take us out with them, and we would do accent roulette, and we'd just go back and forth, and we were kind of like the entertainment. But a voice that everyone always used to love was the movie guy voice, and I would just rip it. It's like, are you ready? This winter season, prepare to open your heart. The new romantic comedy, A Gronk to Remember.
Oh, you are special.
Yeah,
that was awesome. Bravo, sir.
Yeah, man. So it's fun. It's fun. It's a wild profession, but someone's got to do it, I guess. Right?
Well,
man.
Laith, congratulations on the success, and we'll be rooting for you in every film and everything you do going forward, and hopefully we can have you back on again to talk some more down the road with us.
Amen. Whenever you guys need me, I'm there.
Hold on, one more question, Dave. Who you gonna slap when you get your first Oscar?
Who am I gonna slap? I don't know. I'm gonna team up with Chris Rock, and we're gonna get some payback, baby.
You're gonna take him with the payback? Okay, I love it. You might have to come pull a WWE move on Will.
Oh man.
You can see Laith portray New England Patriots tight end Rob Gronkowski in the FX series American Sports Story, Aaron Hernandez. And you can see him as he is one of the leads in the Lifetime holiday film Christmas in the Spotlight, based on Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's relationship. Laith Wallschleger, thank you for taking some time with us here today.
You got it. Thank you, guys.
All right. That is going to do it for us on this edition of the Ed Block Couragecast. For Laith, for DC, for Wally Williams, for Dwayne Brookside and Dave Steinwedel, this has been the Ed Block Couragecast.